This rig rundown is presented by the Yamaha DXR series.
Hey guys, what's going on? This is Perry with Premier Guitar and PremierGuitar.com. Today I'm here with the man, Paige Hamilton. This is really, really awesome. Dude, I'm 31, so Betty came out right when I discovered how much I love music. You know what I mean? So
94, so 20, you were 11 years old.
Exactly.
Yeah. Wow.
You know, so of course, all my friends were like, I was constantly looking for something heavier to listen to.
Yeah.
And it was like, oh, this stuff on the radio isn't quite there. And then I remember, the first couple times I'm hearing Helmet and the bands that were really getting heavy, like more post-hardcore than the metal at the time. I was like, yeah, I'm really for this. But anyway, Thanks so much for meeting us.
My pleasure.
Cool, man. You got a couple of different signatures, correct?
Yep, two.
Okay, cool. Let's talk about those bad boys.
Well, this one we did in 2006 with ESP, and it was kind of partially my design with their assistance, obviously. And the finish was inspired by a actual Paul Reed Smith guitar that I had that was black that a friend of mine, Eric Sanko from the Lounge Lizards and Skeleton Key, aluminum leafed for me. I just loved it. I didn't like the black guitar at the time. I thought it was too metal.
Yeah, pick that up. Let's take
a look. This is kind of the closest we could come to the brushed metal look. The actual aluminum leaf on the other guitar is a lot more kind of industrial looking, cool. But I really like this. It turned out great. And I started originally, like when ESP came to me about doing a signature model, I wanted something that was versatile that I might use on movies and as well as helmet stuff. And as you can see, ultimately I ended up stripping it back down to the way I like my guitars
one volume,
on stage.
One pickup.
Exactly. I'm just too much of a spaz on stage to deal with this thing here, when I'm playing helmet music. So I don't need it. So I took everything out and they plugged it up for me again. So kind of the best laid plans, have to be you have to be flexible with your stuff. So yeah, I love the guitar. Then a few years later, 3 years later, the vice president at the time, Jose, they were really into this guitar. It's what do you call it, a relic kind of thing. My original ESP was a Horizon Custom like this magenta with the reverse headstock and Floyd Rose. And when we were first in touch with them in the late 80s, they were very interested in helmet because we were so different in New York, and we were, metal at the time was a lot of hairspray and kind of stuff, and then we came along, and so they gave me an artist endorsement deal where I got my first guitar for $600. I still have that guitar. It's my favorite instrument. It's alder body, maple neck through. It's cool, great instrument. So it was beat to crap. It's been put back together by Stephen Marchioni, and a great guitar luthier in New York. Because I smashed it one night on stage. So there are dowels in here and stuff. And so they did a great job. They sent the guitar to Japan, the original, which is in a safe place right now. I don't travel with it anymore.
Good idea.
Yeah, and this is what we came up with. It's cool. There's everybody always asks me about the in-guitar reverb unit, which is basically just
in-guitar reverb unit.
A spring there for the hell of it, because we took the pickup out. Then we replace it every so often because it gets completely corroded and rusty.
Sweaty.
Yeah, sweaty and nasty. But yeah, I love the guitar. It sounds great, and the Sig models sound great. They play really great.
So
I love it. I'm really proud of it.
Are your Sigs coming with the Floyd Rose or with the Wilkinson?
Yep. Okay. The whatever you call this, the original magenta signature comes with the Floyd. The Paige Hamilton from 06 comes with a Wilkinson. So
gotcha. And then
ebony fretboard.
Same pickup
in both guitars. Yeah. It was
cool.
Designed for me by Steve Blucher, the genius at DiMarzio Pickups out in Staten Island many years ago. It was around the time of Meantime, and we were in our rehearsal basement in New York City, and Steve would come down, and I had a TC parametric EQ, and I'm not a technical, when I'm on stage, I can describe a few things, like, there's some kind of, something between 6 and 10K is like, sounds crappy or whatever, but I'm not, that's not my mind. I'm like, Steve, I don't feel it in the back of my teeth when I go here, this area right this, and then I'm like, and I need this, boom, 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 boom. It needs to move air when I do that, and so he'd be like, okay, Hamilton, and take the guitar, leave for a couple of days, and come back like 3 days later, and he had a pickup man. I go, this is fucking cool. I got this now. This sounds good. And then we did some more work with the EQ, and he would try various things, and I go, that helps, that works. But I roll on my amp. I roll my mid-range off quite a lot because I like a more percussive kind of sound.
Sure.
You know, for
Yeah.
helmet, for helmet in particular. You know, not for necessarily for movie gigs or other things, but for
Right,
helmet
right.
it works. So anyway, he came up with this great pickup, and it's either called the Air Zone or a Tone Zone Light. The original ad we did was me jumping up in the air, so I think it was Air Zone. That was in the park in Staten Island, and Larry DiMarzio did the photo shoot. He's a really great photographer, and it was cool. Yeah, it's great. I've been using it ever since on all my rock guitars, all my helmet guitars.
Why that pickup? Was it designed for you like to be more high gain or to get a more zippy?
It's a lighter, from what way Steve described it to my completely technologically challenged mind. It's a lighter magnet, and it's the opposite of what you would think to get a heavier sound. But because we use a lot of distortion, but it's a clean distortion. If you know, like not as clean as say Angus and Malcolm would use, but it's a saturated sound. But we still need all the harmonic kind of overtones to be heard. Because we use a lot of chords with extension, extensions.
Add nines and things
yeah,
like that.
a lot of major 7 sharp 11, 13 stuff like that. But with
Is that
thirds
from your
taken.
jazz background, or?
It's partially that maybe, and partially accidental and partially experimentation. And when I do clinics or rock camps with kids, I try to encourage them to just take shapes on the guitar, which I learned from the great Howard Roberts, who's my mentor's mentor, and thus like the grand master for us. Is take a shape and just move notes around, and you start coming up with voicings. Originally, when I was walking home one night in New York in the helmet, the first sort of real helmety riff came to me. It was a song called Repetition, the first song on Strap It On. And we had done some recording, and we kind of had you could hear influences from Wire and Killing Joke and Gang of Four and
Awesome.
Husker Du and stuff. And it was cool and intense or whatever, but it wasn't helmet yet. It was still like this early stages of us developing this kind of muscular sound of combining sort of art music from downtown New York with heavy music that we all love,
Groovy, heavy stuff,
stuff. Yeah, and that's I think a big thing is like people ask me about the jazz influence. So I'm like, well, what are some things about jazz that have influenced you? Obviously, the feel, swing, and harmonic information and rhythmic figures too. So people I approach things differently, and have been told this by older cats that I really respect and admire, like Danny Korchmar and T.M. Stevens, that he said, you guys are one of the heavy bands that swings. It's not a straight eighth note as much as a swing eighth note. But anyway, harmonically, these things I started hearing things in my head walking home one night, and I got this riff in my head, picked the guitar up, and the guitar was in standard tuning. The note I was hearing was a D, so I had to drop tune to get the note I was hearing. And from there, I was like, it freed me from all my guitar conventions, and I stopped writing AC/DC riffs. It's like it's just so easy to play the guitar and write an AC/DC riff because they're just so perfect, and my hands kept going to Highway to Hell. I was like, stop, and that kind of walking home that night and picking up my guitar up sort of freed me. Then over the years, I've just developed the vocabulary.
Sure.
And I know part of the use of distortion and the combination of the guitar, the wood, the pickups, the strings, and the amp. You can't. If I was going to play a major 7 sharp 11 chord with an open E string, say on I'm barring the power chord at the 5th fret, that it's basically a G major 7 sharp 11 with a 6 or a 13. And if you're going to hear those notes, you have to everything has to work well together.
Totally.
Meaning,
yeah.
it's somebody's like, what is it? And as Billy Gibbons said to me, it's in your hands. It's in the hands, and that's true. But if you have the shit gear that doesn't translate,
It's not going to be responsive to your hands. Yeah.
Exactly, and the Fryette amps I use, formerly VHT amps, they have a great range, top and bottom.
Sure.
And it never gets nasty and shrill like a Marshall up top. I love Marshalls, but they're very limited. I use a lot. I have a couple of really cool old Marshalls, a '79 JMP, and I have one of the 50 watt 2204S special heads they made for 1 year. They're cool heads, but for me, I need something that can kind of cover everything.
Gotcha. Yeah. Well, speaking of heads, you've been playing these Fryettes for a long time, right?
Yeah.
So you're set up. Sorry, guys. I know you can't see it right now. There's a bunch of loading in and sound checking going on, but I'll try to get some still photos for you of all the rest of the rig. But the amps right now is it 2 pit bulls?
They're ultra leads. They're
Ultra leads.
100 watt ultra leads, and I have 3 of them. One I leave in Prague because when we do Europe, it's easier, and I
Just to have one
Yeah,
there,
having
yeah.
rented Marshalls before, and you're like, it's like limp dick, I just would rather have my head. So I leave one over there, and we head over there, in fact, September 9th for 40 Betty shows. Yeah, just Steve Blucher actually is responsible for turning me on to VHT. And I was frustrated with my rig, and I was just spending thousands and thousands of dollars on custom-made gear and stuff, and it was great stuff. A friend Harry Colby, who's a brilliant designer and a great guy, but it was getting so expensive and so hard to cart that stuff around. And if something would go down on me on the road, and which happened several times, little strange things would happen with my preamp. In Australia, in front of 8,000 people, in fact, we were playing with Disposable Heroes of Prophecy. I remember that day on Big Day Out. And it's just really frustrating. I thought, if everything eats, craps the bed, I want to be able to unplug out of stuff and plug straight into the amp and play the show, and it's going to be 85% there.
Totally.
I won't be able to do some of the sonic, sculpting, or shit sculpting, I call it, that I do without the pedals and the delays and choruses and things that I, wah-wah pedal. But I can still play guitar solos and create feedback and do the show,
do the thing.
And people are not going to be disappointed. But if you got all of a sudden your guitar sounds super clean and thin and tinny, and you lose it, then you're just stand there with your pants down.
With that said, those Fryettes are pretty high gain. Are you getting most of your distortion from the head?
All of it.
All of it.
My rhythm
Sure.
sounds, and they're channel switching amps. It's a 3-channel amps, and I use all 3 channels. There's a song called Enemies that we do that from the Size Matters album. I use the clean channel, and I punch in like a boost on there. So it's super percussive clean channel. It's terrible for jazz. Like, it's really difficult to play jazz on a 100-watt head with a 412 cab. I've tried. Good luck. Yeah, you can do it, but it just, as a player, everything's about your sound and feel, and it just doesn't feel right. Like a little Fender Deluxe Reverber. I have a little Super Champ from 1986 that sounds fantastic, and you can't beat the Fender Reverb for jazz, but for every other application I've ever needed, from playing with David Bowie to doing Heat and In Dreams and Titus and Across the Universe, all those movies I've used these ultra leads and a 412 cab. It's a VHT / Fryette cab with 50-watt Eminence P50s.
Oh, cool.
Great, which is I find to be a really solid speaker, a really versatile speaker. Though I do use a greenback cab for recording my rhythm guitars in the studio.
So it sounds like you got it pretty streamlined. That's the cab you're using is going to be the 50-watt Eminence.
Yep.
And are you running these? Is one a backup? One head a backup?
One head's a backup right now.
Cool.
Yeah, I was running 2 half stacks side by side, and at one point I was driving Stevie nuts, Stevie Fryette, and not really. He loves it, but we were in the shop, and I said, okay, now I want to move. I have these 2 cabinets running through the 50 through the power amp, the 292 I think it is, or the 5150 that I had. It's wait, shit. Yeah, the giant. His power amp is just incredible. I mean, it's just really great shit, really well made, and just sounds so good. And so I was running the 2 top cabs off of a head each, and running the bottom cabs off of one side of the power amp each. And I went through every configuration, running 2 heads off of one, 2 cabs off one head, side by side. So I had 2 full stacks, and it's great, it's amazing. But we're an indie band. We're not playing Madison Square Garden. Like their biggest show we'll do in Europe will probably be 1,100 people in Belgium, and a half stack is fine. I talked to Neil Young about this years ago, and I was like, "You've got a whole barn full of amps," and he said, "I used 2 of them." I said, "The deluxes," and he said, "Yep." And he's loud as fuck. He's got the guitar everywhere on stage, but he uses 2 deluxe reverbs, and that's it. So you get the tone that you need, and it's cool. Like from a metal standpoint, it's cool as a guitar geek to play in front of 2 full stacks. It sounds incredible,
especially on stage. Your stage volume is
so
awesome.
rad,
yeah,
man. And you can do so much with it. And I had a little Andy Myers, our old sound guy, who was also Neil Diamond's monitor guy years ago, had a little 10 millisecond delay. We were using an H3000 just for a stereo, and it's incredible, but it's impractical for a band like us. Right. We don't have a massive crew. We've got like 3 guys that travel with us, and so a half stack, my Bradshaw rig, and over the years I've had Bob Bradshaw do so many different rigs for me. I had like the 16, the big refrigerator and the stuff, and the giant pedal board, and then we streamlined it down to a 6-space rack and a smaller pedal board, and eventually I was like, I'm spending thousands of dollars to ship this stuff to Australia, Japan, Brazil, Europe, and you're coming home and not making any money. So
because you spend all your money moving it over there.
It's ridiculous. I mean, it's
crazy.
15 grand just to send like our gear over there. It's like it's crazy.
And then half the time it's broken when you get there.
Exactly.
That drives me crazy. Yeah.
So Bob designed this board for me that fits on one board. I brought these 2 pedal boards into him, pre-made pedal boards. One was a Pelican gun case, and one was a pedal board. And he's like, God, get this! No, fuck this! Get this out of here! I don't even look at this. And he's like, let me see this one. So he looked at it and we just started configuring things, and he designed this genius switcher that fits on the board. So everything's on the board now. There's no rack, nothing's in the rack. The board, you know, it's like, it does get abused, and I had some problems with it a couple of years ago.
He just goes, the stuff gets cracked and broken, and they just, you know, if they see music gear, they don't realize that this is your livelihood and this is what you're here to do.
Yeah, this is, you know, and airlines don't give a rat's ass. They just abuse the stuff, you know, so.
So speaking of pedals, I know you've been streamlining it and getting it down to something manageable, especially for touring both the United States and Europe. What all are you running now? Is it a lot of rack effects, or is it?
No, on the board itself, and this is not necessarily for recording, because for recording I use my other Bradshaw rig that's got like my old SDD 2000 Korg delay in there, and I have this crappy Digitech GSP5 that is awesome. You know what I mean? Yeah. It's an old piece of gear I bought like 25 years ago, and it still just makes a wall of noise. I say crappy in a heartfelt sense, because I like sounds that are not necessarily like guitar geek purist, and that's why I was always about developing my own sound, and not necessarily like, you know, if I could afford a 59 Les Paul, I'd buy it, but I can't, you know what I mean? So, and a lot of guys made cool sounds out of those guitars and amps already, so why should I try to do that? And a lot of kids now, they just want Les Pauls and Strats because they look cool, and I'm like, man, come up with your own thing, you know, and that's why I love ESP so much, and VHT and stuff. But my pedals on this particular rig that I'm on tour with right now, I've got a Jeffrey T. Swa, a Real McCoy. He's brilliant wah guy. I've got the Time Factor, Eventide.
Oh, Eventide, yeah.
Yeah, because it's a MIDI, and you can program it. It's a really good sound. It's got quite a bit of headroom, and I just run it through the front end of the amp. I had Bob build a loop in it, and I tried it, and it just was a hassle. I didn't like it.
Yeah, you didn't like it. Yeah. It's a different animal for sure. Running
totally
through the
different
effects
animal.
loop. Yeah.
It's not necessary for me, you know. I don't mind having stuff be a little, you know, get a little messy, like because it's kind of part of my.
The noise is
my
kind of
style.
part of y'all.
It's kind of part of my solo style. I had Tommy Victor from Prong said, "Man, I'm trying to do my solos like you." It's like, man, that's ridiculous. Don't do that. You know, I'm a mess. You know, it's like, because there's part like technique, you know, and things happening for, you know, scalar things, weird superimposition of, you know, harmonic ideas, and then there's also noise and other crap. You know, that's kind of part of my solo vibe. So, but so there's that. The Time Factor. Then I have an NS2, a noise gate, because we have a lot of, you know, space in our music, and you don't want like a wall of
noise between
the notes. Then there's an MXR bass octave box that I use on the clean channel for the song "Enemies" for the verse, which was the sound that we in the studio was like a Parker fly through a whammy pedal that Charlie Clouser from Nine Inch Nails and we wrote this song together, and Charlie was just playing like caveman guitar with his, you know, he might as well have had gloves on, he's so bad, but he came up with this brilliant, you know, sound, and I'm like, grab that chord for 2 bars and that chord for 2 bars, and then I wrote the chorus in like 10 minutes, and it just came together. And so it's easier live to just use the MXR because it tracks better than the original whammy pedals. New whammy pedals are very in tune. They sent me a couple of those.
They get the little switch on them now where you can use the old algorithm or the new one, right?
I don't know. I've got so many of those pedals, and I love the sound of the old ones, but you can't. They're not reliable to sing against. Mm-hmm. They're great for solos because it doesn't matter tonality. You know, if you're in the, you know, key of Q, you know, over D minor, but. But it's just, and this MXR is this big. It's like a little blue bass octave pedal, and then I use. Bob and MXR designed a distortion box that's got a clean boost and distortion. I find it over the years to be kind of the most open sounding and flexible.
Do you run the clean boost and the distortion together?
No, I only use the clean boost on, like, there's a song Sam Hell we do for the last song on Betty, and I have an AC2, an acoustic simulator pedal that for the Betty album I'm going to be using because it's easier than taking an acoustic.
So do you feel like it's like through the Fryette into the acoustic simulator through the clean channel of the Fryette gives you enough acoustic sound?
No, it's an interesting sound.
I was gonna.
I don't care. I'm not trying to get like Stairway to Heaven or you know what I mean, acoustic guitar sound like a Martin guitar or whatever. I just want an interesting sound.
Sure.
The original on the album I played Henry Bogdan had a Deering 6-string electric guitar banjo.
Cool.
That's what I played on the album, and that was just a beautiful train wreck. I ran it through my Super Champ.
Cool sound. Yeah.
Yeah, it was just a great sound. So I just want some kind of a broken spoke sound for that song, and I got a Shure Green Bullet mic to get that vocal sound. It's just so much fun. It's just a totally different textures and sounds you can come up with, and it's really inspiring. So that's the combination that and for that song. And then I'm trying to think what else I have on there. We'll have Stevie Fryette makes a thing called a valvulator. It's a tube buffer and a power supply for my pedals. It's just got a little 12AX7 low noise, I think it is, tube in there. And for years and years, Harry Colby, he had built a tube buffer for me. I was always having issues with the impedance getting slammed down by the pedals and stuff, and it really affects your tone. Obviously, there's the whole thing of like true bypass and all that stuff, and it's really true. Obviously, if you plug straight into your amp, it's really a sort of buzzkill. So that's a key piece of gear, and I find it colors the sound in a way that I like. So that kind of is on all my pedal boards. Valvulator. There's that. There's the gate. There's the distortion. What's that? The Boss, who every pedal they make is useful and awesome. Is the pitch shifter. It's the sort of puke green one. It's like blue green. It's like turquoise, maybe shiny turquoise. What is it? PS5, I think. I have the PS3, which is the blue one, and that's a really great pedal. But for my purposes, I like that I can do it has the whammy and the trem settings, and so you can do your solos and just have them really out of tune sounding.
Crazy, weird.
Cool. Yeah, it's awesome. Cool. Yeah. So I do a lot of close. Guitar playing is a lot of position playing for rock. It's not like jazz where you have to kind of have a grasp of things from the first fret to the 15th fret. Chord voicings and substitutions and everything all over the place, and scales. And rock, you're standing up and you're rocking out, and there's not a lot of going from here to here. So there's a lot of position stuff. So I do a lot of very tight interval stuff, and it's really fun to do that kind of stuff. I come up with guitar patterns like all guitar players do, that are just that harmonically they make no sense, but they sound great on the guitar. And when you're doing that and kind of detuning while you're doing it with the pedal, it's really fun. And I also use the kind of the chorusy effect on there. It's like there's a little bit of delay, and there's a harmonizer. I don't use the harmonizer stuff that much, but it's fun. On a song we do a song called Tick, and at the end it's kind of like dinosaur calls. This sort of more shit sculpting. Yeah, elephant in the jungle, woolly mammoths and stuff like that. So those are I think that's pretty much all I've got on this board. We'll take a picture of it and then I'll probably jog my memory. It's not that much stuff, but.
Very cool. Well, hey man, I can't tell you how much we appreciate you meeting up with us today.
Cool, awesome.
I hope you guys have a great tour and a super fun show. Can't wait to see it here in a little while. I'm really excited. And this is Perry with Premier. Thanks so much for watching.
Don't forget to sign up for PG Perks, your all-access pass to exclusive gear giveaways and discounts on PremierGuitar.com.